Hi there again, sports fans. This is Les Kiter at Convention Hall ringside in Miami Beach for the World's Heavyweight Championship fight between title holder Sonny Liston and challenger Cassius Clay. In just a few minutes, Louisville's Cassius Marcellus Clay climbs the steps into Miami Beach's 20-foot ring here at Convention Hall to face the target of his constant needle, to run head-on into the devastating punches of the heavyweight champion, Sonny Liston. The man who has been screaming to the heavens that he's the greatest meets his destiny.
You know, I shot my mouth off to make this fight a success, and my day of reckoning is about to come. If the worst happens, I want $10,000 to get my bus out of there real quick.
That's right, Les. This match is expected to finally close the mouth of Clay, a.k.a. the Louisville Lip, as the 7-to-1 Vegas odds in Liston's favor show 5 times as much wagering on which round Liston will win in over who will actually win the fight.
Something that Clay did changed the press consensus about the probable outcome of this bout. For instance, beginning with Walter Red Smith of the New York Herald Tribune, here is the way they see it.
Liston inside 3.
Howard, I'm picking Liston, obviously, to win the fight, but I think it could go as far as 8 rounds. I say Sonny in 6.
Sonny Liston inside of 6.
Yeah, this is Ferdy Pacheco, Cassius Clay's doctor. Is Mount Sinai the closest hospital?
Well, I would say Sonny Liston in 3 or 4.
Which doctors are working the ER tonight? Okay, I'm gonna need the fastest route.
Howard, I like Liston to win by knockout in 3 rounds. I like Sonny Liston to win by knockout in 3 rounds.
Sonny Liston in a hurry, 2 rounds, 3 at most.
A great former champion, Joe Louis. Joe, do you see any way that Cassius Clay could beat Sonny Liston?
Yeah, if he take Jim Brown and ring with him, you know? But no other way. No other way.
Now, Cassius, tell me the truth. Put aside all the hoopla and bravado. What do you think about this fight with Sonny Liston? What do you think will happen?
Well, it's like this. I feel like Christopher Columbus. I think I know something, and I've bet my whole life on this thing that no one else believes. And I'm a little scared now because I'm reaching the point where I'll find out if I was right, where I'll finally have proof. But I won't know for sure until I get there. And the even scarier part is, the last person who tried this was even badder than I am. His name was Jack Johnson, and he came along just after the "I bet you $50,000 my slave can beat your slave" days, when fights had an unlimited amount of rounds. And into days where it was often nearly impossible to beat a white man, because sometimes the crowd, including the media, would literally prop the white fighter up and prolong the time in between rounds to keep the poor guy going. They punch the black fighter, break his fingers, or fix it scoring-wise so that the white man would always come out on top. This gave rise to black fighters being known as knockout artists, because knocking a guy out was pretty much the only way a nigga could win. And that's if you were allowed to fight in the first place. And in places where blacks were allowed to fight in the U.S., they might be able to win a lower weight class championship, but the most coveted world heavyweight championship was completely off limits. Pioneering heavyweight champion John L. Sullivan made sure that the color line was drawn.
I will not fight a Negro. I never have, and I never shall. Any fighter who'd get in the same ring with a nigger loses my respect.
Along with his successor, Jim Jeffries.
What about Jack Johnson, Jim?
I said I will retire when there are no white men left to fight.
And so he did, leaving the title to the Canadian Tommy Burns. A heavyweight champion Jack Johnson could finally get to after following him around the world for 2 years, taunting Burns ringside and in the press, and beating every fighter that stood in between. Well, actually, it was a financial offer to Burns from some promoters with a boatload of money that finally got to 2 in the ring. And during that title fight, after it was clear that Johnson had won, the police stopped the fight in the 14th round, and the cameras were turned off so that there would be no record of a black man knocking out a white man. And on December 26, 1908, Jack Johnson became the first black world heavyweight champion. White America was livid, and famed writer Jack London called for a great white hope to remove that smile from Johnson's face. And running out of hopes, he lured the undefeated Jim Jeffries out of retirement.
Jeff, it's up to you.
I am going into this fight for the sole purpose of proving that a white man is better than a Negro.
Setting the ground for the fight of the century, where amongst chants like "Kill That Nigga" and the tune "All Coons Look Alike to Me," Jack Johnson's fist single-handedly tore down a pillar of white supremacy that said that the white man was superior in body and mind to darker people. As blacks began to celebrate, whites attacked, and race riots broke out around the country, killing and injuring several people. And to make matters worse for white folk, this big black man, who now held the symbolic title of the most physically powerful human being on the planet, was nothing like a humble houseboy. He was rough, tough, and arrogant. Bold and confident, Jack Johnson did whatever he wanted, slept with and married whoever he wanted, and made however much money he wanted legally pounding in the skull of white men and mocking them while doing it. In other words, he had to go. So eventually they got him on some trumped-up charges for transporting women, including his wife, across state lines for quote-unquote immoral purposes. But his ultimate demise came after his anger got the best of him when he was denied service at a segregated diner. I suppose every man has his breaking point. After Johnson, white champions would redraw the color line.
Jack Dempsey, now that you're heavyweight champion, will you take on black heavyweight Harry Wills?
I can assure the country that I will pay no attention to challenges from Negro boxers.
Leaving great black boxers like Sam Langford and Harry Wills to fight each other 18 times, while white boxers held onto the world heavyweight title for over 2 decades, until a black boxer too good to ignore called Joe Louis came along, having won over white America with an anti-Jack Johnson temperament that made it likely he would stick to the 7 commandments he was given by his managers, which included things like never have your picture taken alongside a white woman, and the type of commandments I would later shatter, like never gloat over a fallen opponent, always keep a dead pan in front of the cameras, and always live and fight clean. Well, according to me, I always fought clean. But when it came to women, let's just say that I've been known to admit that I don't live clean enough to be a spiritual leader. And, perhaps more importantly, agreeing to let the reigning white champ, James Braddock, and his manager have 10% of Lewis's profits for the next 10 years got Joe a shot at the title. And when the World Heavyweight Championship belt passed back into black hands, and Joe Louis became black people's hero, the country didn't lose their heads, but they joined them. Exactly a year later, when the Brown Bomber symbolically knocked out the Aryan race in his victory over Hitler favorite Max Schmeling, many would come to consider it the most important sporting event in world history. When I was born, I was taught to love Joe, and I always have, along with all the black champions and great boxers that came after.
Since I won the championship, I feel very proud about it, and I'll try and do my best to keep it as clean as the previous fellow who just stepped down, Joe Louis.
With my favorite being Sugar Ray Robinson. He was more my style. But later when people would ask me why I couldn't set a good example for my people like Joe Louis and Sugar Ray, all I could think was, well, they're gone now, and the black man's condition is still the same, ain't it? We're still catching hell.
Why should I have lunch in my room?
I'm sorry, Mr. Conrad, but this is a white man's hotel.
You're telling me Joe Louis isn't good enough to eat in your dining room?